Hi everyone, happy Wednesday. Happy International Women's Day as well. So Instagram tells me I'm a little bit behind the times with these things when they happen. But yeah, I've seen some beautiful posts online today about that, which has been really nice to read. I am jumping on for anyone who's new to our feeds or new to our lives. My name is Carissa and I am a clinical nutritionist at the JCN Clinic in Brisbane. We specialize in digestive health, primarily there, and functional testing. Hey, X, saw you jumped on. We specialize in functional testing for an array of things, but we do a lot of digestive disease and IBS related concerns, but we also do a lot in the hormone space, and that is actually what we're jumping on to talk about today, purely because this is also endometriosis, endometriosis awareness month, and we've just actually re-released a podcast with Mickey and Jess where they talk about endo. So that's what we thought we'd just jump on and talk quickly about today, Mickayla and I. So the podcast is really informative if you guys really want some more information in that space. But essentially what we thought we would just cover today for anyone who's sort of new to the endometriosis space or hasn't really heard much about it but is curious, we thought that that's what we'd actually cover today. So I'm just going to wait for Mickayla to jump on, and hopefully she does. But yeah, we're going to talk about endometriosis and essentially what it is. And we're not going to go right in depth into that, but for anyone who is sort of, this word is even just new to them, then it's something to obviously know a little bit about in the female hormone space. Endometriosis itself essentially is just, it's an estrogen driven condition where your sort of cells that generally grow inside your like your uterus and build up your cell lining essentially grow on the outside. So it's not a condition that we want to occur in women, and it obviously comes with its own sort of broad set of symptoms and concerns and fertility issues and things like that as well. So essentially some of the signs and symptoms, I'm just going to get into this because I don't know where Mickayla is, so I'm just going to keep talking. So hello everyone who's joining. We're talking about endometriosis. Still waiting for Mickayla to join, so I'm just going to get into this. So essentially when we're talking about endo, some of the signs and symptoms, the more common ones that people will experience is things like, hang on, she is jumping on. Hang on, I'll just bring her on. Anyway, for everyone new who's jumping on, happy International Women's Day, and today Mickayla and I are talking about endometriosis. So I'll just wait for her to get on. I don't know what's going on here. Anyway, no idea. I'm just going to keep going until it works. Anyway, so some of the signs and symptoms that I see in clinic with endo, because I treat this condition a lot, are definitely quite heavy periods, and this is not always the case, but definitely periods can be heavy and clotty, or they cannot be. But pain seems to be one of the biggest associated symptoms with endo. And I'm not talking about normal period pain. What I'm essentially talking about with endo is pain that, and if anyone who is obviously on here that has endo or has experienced endo pain, you guys will know what I'm talking about. But endo pain, for my clients that do experience the pain level, it is just something out of this world. We've got my clients that have endo essentially tell me that they are so doubled over in pain. The first 24 hours is probably it is just so excruciating. They're usually, taken out of work or social activities or anything like that. Hot water bottles, nausea can be associated. I've got some clients where the pain is that severe before diagnosis, or when they're actually starting to learn that they might have this condition, that they almost black out from pain. So it is something that is beyond the intensity of what a normal period pain could be. Hang on, I'm just chatting to Mickayla. Help. I don't know, love. You're going to have to just try and just join again. I don't know what's going on here. Request to join. Let me try again. See, hang on. I don't know why it's not letting her join, but I'll just give it a go.
Okay.
Oh, it might be working this time. Oh, yay.
Oh, I'm back to front. Hold on. There we go.
Hey.
I wasn't getting any of
Okay.
those notifications to like
Oh,
join the thing.
that's that's so weird.
Really
Anyway,
bizarre.
I'm kind of well and truly. That's all right. Hello. I'm well and truly into it because I just thought I might as well get started because I didn't know what was going on with you. So I've
Yeah.
just kind of gone into what we're talking about today. I've mentioned that I'm just going through some of the signs and symptoms. So I'll finish covering that because I'm already on the the signs and symptoms sort of train. But then I thought if you wanted to, if there's anything else you want to add, then you can. So I was just
Hmm.
describing to everyone pain, like everyone watching, the difference between normal period pain, which obviously is a little bit of cramping stuff, to full blown endo pain. And obviously the spectrum is quite different with all the clients that we see, but usually like the more severe pain when endo hasn't been diagnosed or we're suspecting it for our clients, it's pretty intense and severe. So that's obviously a very classic, in your face sign. I do definitely and have had clients in the past where their pain is not that significant and it's not and they've even had some clients who get no heavy periods and not and minimal pain symptoms, and later down the track they get diagnosed with endometriosis. So there is obviously a place for like what we sort of call we call sort of silent endo, something that's just hanging out and lurking behind the scenes, but essentially more commonly there's quite a bit of pain associated with periods. So pain with sex is another big
Yeah.
one. So I've already mentioned like heavy bleeding, pain with sex, pelvic pain in general, like usually more obviously, accentuated around the time of the menstrual cycle, but pelvic pain in general is also always something worth paying attention to.
Hmm.
I said heavy periods. Anything else you want to add, signs and symptom wise?
I mean, you've
Just
kind
some,
of covered most of it. Like, there's all the outlying stuff that flows on from the endo and all of the things that it produces and like, etc. Um, you said pelvic inflammatory disease, like just tightness, general pelvic floor stuff as well because of all the prostaglandins in
yeah, I
that
did.
area too, like really tight muscles and tight, maybe even tight hips or what feels like tight hips too.
Hmm.
Um,
Yep.
yeah. So it really, really
Yeah.
depends because, like you said, there's a lot of variance between individuals as to how
Yeah.
much potential pain that they might be in as well. But like, I've definitely heard of people have like literally no symptoms at all, and then it just gets discovered when they're doing something else in there.
Correct. Yeah, I think, yeah, exactly. Well, I think a lot of the time too, and this probably segues into our next section, is like mainstream interventions for endo and how it's diagnosed. So
Yeah.
quite commonly, like I feel like for us in the holistic health space, we are like, especially working in the hormone space more in depth, and the fertility space, which I spend a lot of time working in the last few years, is you're usually pretty quick to suspect endo for most people if you think it's going on. So
Yes.
that's not always the case. Like I said, there are people that don't sit inside the box, but usually for us, and even layered with some of the testing that we have access to, in terms of, like Dutch testing, where we can look at how estrogen metabolizes, we usually can suspect endo for our clients, I think, quite quickly if it is something we suspect. I do think that the thing with endo I do think the thing with endo is that in the mainstream health space, it does get looked over a lot. I think women are told a lot of times that they've just got heavy, painful periods and that that's just a part of life and that they should deal with it. And they do, and unless they're in the fertility space and they're probably working with a gyno, so they're more pushing or potentially going down the IVF space, quite often, it's not something that someone's going to go looking for unless you sort of push for it. So would that be your experience as well, do you think?
Yeah. Like most of the clients I've seen with already diagnosed endo, usually it's because they had such severe symptoms that it was really impacting their quality of life. But again, like I have had a client that got, I think they were looking at a cyst or something and then just like, bam, endo in your face. And I was like, not really a massive amount of those extreme symptoms. Like they did technically have heavier periods, but they weren't in pain a lot. They got away with like a Panadol or something and that was fine.
Yep.
But yeah, it comes up a lot. And then like even, what was that lady's name? That Bindi Irwin article that came out recently, like she's been trying to get that diagnosis or like trying to get the surgery at least for like 10 years. So it's like, it's not
Yep.
a short road to a diagnosis or even like any type of medical intervention in that regard, other than like the pill.
Yeah, Yeah, I definitely feel like that's my experience with a lot of my clients as well, that unless they've really, really pushed for some sort of hormonal,
Mm.
and like while we're on it, the main way to diagnose endo is not through, or endometriosis is not through an ultrasound. It is rarely, if ever, picked up in an ultrasound. We need to do a laparoscopy, which obviously is an exploratory surgery that needs to be booked and done. And then, if there is endo in there, then quite often they can remove it, or do a surgery to remove, the intensity of the scar tissue and things like that has formed all the lesions.
Yeah.
Essentially that sort of, from that, to get to that stage where you are having a laparoscopy, seems to be the hard journey for a lot of people, because it's not something that, unless you're wanting to have babies, I find is taken very seriously sometimes for a lot of my clients. And similar, I didn't see the Bindi Irwin story, but I know I know a lot of people in that's a similar situation where, they just probably haven't got as quick medical attention as what they need. And the surgery, it's probably, worth mentioning, is the surgery is obviously good in terms of the fact that it removes a lot of the damage that endometriosis has done, but it doesn't actually change what's happening behind the scenes in terms of, and this is where obviously you and I want to talk about the holistic space beyond what, like surgery will just remove the damage that unmanaged endometriosis has already done. So it doesn't actually go in and change how your estrogen's behaving. It doesn't address the intensity of the inflammatory cascade behind why endo is occurring. It doesn't, for some people, it may give them symptomatic relief and reduce pain. It may also help them fall pregnant, especially if there's a lot of endo growing around the ovaries and fallopian tubes and things like that. So there are obviously 100% benefits to surgery, but beyond surgery, I think the only thing that is then offered to people is go on contraception to just shut down your production of estrogen, or at least lessen the impacts of it. And then that obviously gives you more time against estrogen being proliferative. But, we've got so many clients who contraception doesn't agree with them, or fall pregnant, I think, is another thing like a lot of my clients have been told, just fall pregnant really quickly and fall pregnant again really quickly.
And it'll fix it magically.
Which, again, it doesn't. It just gives your body a break from it. But, in the holistic space, there's so much that you can do, like with or without contraception. Like some of my clients obviously opt to go on contraception, and that's cool. That's their decision. A lot of my clients opt not to. And again, that's cool. That's their decision. But that's where we step in and do, like a lot of, the work in the holistic space. So do you want to hit that one?
Where to start? I mean, like you said, if they want to go on contraception or not, that's up to them, and we can definitely work within that space very effectively as well. Because like a lot of the stuff we do, apart from certain supplements and herbs, is kind of working not directly on the hormones even. Like it may be just supporting detoxification of estrogen rather than working on modulating that estrogen-progesterone balance as well. We could also work a lot on the gut space and that relationship with endo, which I think we talked about a lot more in the podcast, so that's another reference point there. And obviously diet is a big component of that, especially like long-term management too, because like even if you were on the pill, are you going to be on the pill for the rest of your life? Like what's the long-term plan? Which I find that most GPs or even specialists or anyone that's on their care team don't really go through with those endo clients either. They're just like, oh, have the pill, and like that's it, you're kind of sorted. But it's not, because like obviously it's not fixing that progress of the endo in the background. Maybe we should start with, do you want me to do some diet stuff and herbs, and then we come back to supplements essentially?
Go for it. Go for it.
Okay. There's a few. Obviously something closer to a whole food diet would be ideal, and I know that's not really very specific, but whole foods is always a better option in terms of managing that inflammatory cascade as well, and that progress of endo development. You can look specifically at more like your cruciferous vegetables to help detoxify that extra estrogen, and that's regardless whether you're on the pill or not. I forgot where I was going. There's like lots of high antioxidant fruit and veggies and that sort of stuff. All of your whole herbs herbs like your turmeric, your ginger. They're really helpful, especially around that period time, if you can get them in large enough amounts too. But that is where we come in with supplements a lot of the time as well, is that management of pain if it's still existing too. You can do things like your green tea, your resveratrol foods like grapes, apple skins and all of that jazz. Lots of fish oils as well, like all of your really rich anti-inflammatory foods basically. Like diet-wise, it's not super complicated. It's just like doing the thing, which makes it a bit difficult sometimes, especially when you do have to manage how much pain you're in and like not really being able to maybe leave the bed in that case.
Yeah. I also, I think definitely, and I just think understanding what foods are inflammatory for you is a big thing as well. Like, you know, like if you're someone who doesn't do well on dairy, dairy's still considered a whole food, but if that's an inflammatory food for you, it's going to be pushing the inflammatory parameters of what your body can deal with. Same with gluten, you know, so like I think a whole food, anti-inflammatory diet and high antioxidant diet is obviously the way to go. I get all of my clients off sugar, like I just, you know, any refined sugar, like I'm so cool with fruit and, you know, complex whole grains and things like that, but sugar's got to go a big time. Coffee as well, I think, is probably something that should be mentioned in the estrogen space. And I know that makes all of us coffee lovers hurt, but coffee and estrogen share some similar detoxification pathways, and coffee can definitely, you know, impact estrogen metabolism. Alcohol is a big one for estrogen metabolism, so that's really going to be addressed. So it's not just about the foods that you're eating, it's about what you actually need to make a really significant effort to remove from an inflammatory point of view, like booze, sugar, potentially caffeine. You know, like you've got to have a really good think about your relationship with those things as well, from a food point of view, I think.
That is true. I think I've just kind of bypassed that and been like, overcrowd it with anti-inflammatory foods. But on that like gluten and dairy point of potentially inflammatory foods for you as well, like I feel like it's more statistically or more likely in those clients as well to have an issue with one or the other, even if it's not in all cases. And maybe it doesn't make that much of a difference overall. If you clean up the rest of the diet as well, there might be like a certain tolerance level for you as well, but maybe even a trial period if you're not working with a practitioner, I guess. It makes life a little bit difficult, but a trial period cutting those out can always be helpful if you're trying to manage it on your own as well.
Fiber is also worth mentioning. Like I think if you're eating a whole grain antioxidant, you know, beautiful diet that we're talking about, then hopefully fiber is not going to be lacking. But for everyone out there, fiber and gut health really matters, because as we've chatted about in a million podcasts and a million lives, like your gut health is your phase 3 detoxification. So if you're not excreting properly and in a healthy way, doesn't that sound delightful? Then, you know, that's obviously going to impact how your estrogen is recycled as well. So fiber, I can't stress highly enough how important fiber is for endo, you know. Really.
And the follow along to that is like read between the lines, like how much are you pooping a day? Are you pooping daily? Like this is really kind of essential to that detoxification pathway as well. And like you said, with all of those foods that are inflammatory and overloading that liver a little bit too, like that's one of the other areas that we can support a lot with herbs if we need to, or supplements as well. Like we might choose to use like your NAC, your St. Mary's thistle, your rosemary, turmeric as well. There's a bunch, but they're the pretty standard versions, I guess. Like they do get applied in a lot of my cases.
Definitely. Other supplements I think I use a lot. I use a lot of magnesium in estrogen related conditions, obviously. B vitamins, fish oils, you've already mentioned. And you said NAC, turmeric, like all of your beautiful antioxidant, liver supportive, estrogen detox supportive supplements count. What about some herbs that people could use? Like I know you mentioned some of your anti-inflammatory herbs, and I know some of the cool shit you put into your herb bottles and things like that. But what about like people like, and I know that you did this just for me with a different type of pain, but things that are specific to the actual pain. Like I know you could make someone up something that's specific for the actual 5 to 7 days that they've got their period and the pain that can come with that, as opposed to just the more what we're doing throughout the entire month. Like I know you'd have some cool
Yeah.
stuff there.
I do actually do like pain, like period pain mixes or just pain mixes quite a lot as that more acute dosing too. And sometimes we'll use the fish oils and the turmeric leading up to that, depending on like how heavy their flow is too. But I guess like your top three maybe is like your cramp bark for sure at reducing that spasm, so literally lessening the cramps. And then you've got like your Jamaican dogwood, your cow poppy as carminatives, and more on that pain relief side of things as well. And then your ginger and turmeric as well as what do you call it, COX-2 inhibitors or something like that, which helps prevent that whole pathway from like a couple of steps back. But yeah, they're the ones I go for the most really, and like sometimes even topical applications for pain management too, like your magnesium baths, heat packs, the castor oil, all of that jazz on the outside too.
Yeah.
But yeah, like even ginger tea.
Yeah, ginger tea. I think a lot of teas, there's lots of beautiful teas, just even digestively, because I know people get like upset around, gut upsets around the time of their period. So yeah, I think just there's so much nice stuff in that, in the food as medicine and tea as medicine space. I think the goal with endo, obviously, apart from reducing symptoms and everything that we've talked about for people, is what is the long-term goal for you as a client if you're working with someone like us. And ultimately, our goal is to improve every menstrual cycle so that you can, experience something that is somewhat normal. But the bigger goal is to 100% reduce you going back in for a surgery. Like surgeries are obviously quite invasive. There's a lot of downtime that can be involved with them. So again, things like that are so case by case for a lot of my clients. I have some clients that purely due to stress circumstances and life circumstances that we have to consider that we need to potentially use some sort of hormonal intervention, whether it be a progesterone-based intervention in the form of a Mirena or, progesterone-based pill. There's a couple of, bioidentical sort of, progesterones that, I use alongside a gynecologist. Like, we're still doing all the work that you and I are talking about, but like, we don't want someone going back in for surgery 12 months after their initial endometriosis surgery. And if we can't get our hands on, a handle on how aggressive your endo is. And for some people, like, for a lot of clients, we can manage it naturally, but there's obviously the clients that, for whatever reason, whether it be stress, sometimes their endo is super aggressive, and even it's just like you constantly are putting out spot fires. So there's so much other work that needs to be done in terms of gut work and things like that. So definitely there is 100% a place for hormonal intervention, I believe. I know other people might not agree with that, but I listen to a lot of people talk in the hormone space, and everyone's so anti-hormonal intervention 100%, and I just think we have to acknowledge that it has a role and it has a place, and our goal is for our clients not to be in pain and not to be under the knife in surgery. So yeah, like, what are your thoughts around that?
I don't really have any concerns. Like, if that's what they want to do, like, it does obviously have measurable benefits, and they do, I guess not to pick one, but the Mirena does show the kind of best benefits with endo in terms of managing that period and that pain. Obviously, it doesn't stop the whole process. There's still a lot of pain and heavy bleeding associated with it, but it can definitely give them a much better quality of life. And that's something that can just stick around there. It's like not something that they necessarily have to manage day to day, which can take a lot of the stress off them too. And like, that's obviously having that high stress promotes more inflammation. So it's like all of these cofactors that we're kind of dealing with, but like this can definitely take a lot of the pressure away.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Quality of life is our most important goal for our clients. So if 100%, like, and in the beautiful thing, The beautiful thing in the holistic space is that we can work either way. We can purely be 100% holistic, and we can treat your endometriosis or any condition that way. But if we know that there's interventions that are necessary, we're not naive enough to say that you don't need them. We're happy to recommend them, or to, outsource a gyno if you're not working with one, to integrate, because again, it's about the best possible outcome for you and your endometriosis, really. So
Yeah. Like I've had patients that we've literally just done diet work with and even just kept it minimal with the supplements and just used NAC, like that is it. And they've still had a lot of benefit, and even basically just like they've left, like they're all happy to go live like that for ages and come back if they need me. But like sometimes it is as simple as that, and they can get away with that if there's a lot of those outlying factors well managed for them too. But some cases are definitely more extreme, and depending on what is going on in their life, that's going to impact how everything fits together as well.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I did give your podcast a little plug before you jumped on, so I'll just say for anyone who joined in after the start of this and is still watching, thank you for paying attention to us. Mickayla and Jess did an awesome podcast on endometriosis, which when I pop this up in my stories, I will try and hyperlink. If not, just head to our podcast channel. It'll be there. Do you know what episode it is?
106. 106.
Okay, yeah, cool. So
I think so.
Yeah, so it'll be in that top section for anyone jumping on the podcast.
Yeah, and it goes into a lot more detail around that gut endo connection, which can be really a crucial part in treatment as well.
Yeah, definitely needs to be 100% considered.
Did you want to talk about? I was just going to say, did you want to talk about like other therapies or other pracky models that we can bring into the care plan? I guess like acupuncture, massage.
Acupuncture is amazing. Massage, pelvic pain specialists. Definitely. I think for any chronic health condition, and endo is definitely one of them, it is so important to have a team of specialists to help you on your journey and your travels. But did you want to add any more? Did you want to elaborate more on? I know pelvic pain physios and pelvic pain specialists can just be bloody godsends, and I know acupuncture can just be freaking amazing. So
the other thing, like if you don't have access to this as well, I don't know if it was specifically related to endo, but I did see something about like stretching out a lot of those hip flexors and like all the muscles around that hip area and your lower back can improve period pain. So if there's any potential for that to work alongside endo as like a self-treatment, that's definitely something that you can look into, because like I said, like a lot of that inflammation is going on in those areas, and it's pretty normal for your body to tighten up and get very tense if there's a lot of stress in that area too. And like the positions that you find yourself in when you're trying to relieve cramping during your cycle as well, just opening up all that muscle is really relieving to the area as well. But there's lots of I think the pelvic floor therapist is probably my top one, but acupuncture has made a huge difference in some of my clients' periods as well, which is good.
Did we mention something else in there before?
Massage?
Did we say effort? No, we so we've massage, so we've got like just even like off the top of our heads in terms of a team for endo, like nutritionist, naturopath, pelvic pain specialist, gynecologist, a good GP, an acupuncturist / massage therapist. Like you that's a pretty decent team. And if there's anyone else watching that can think of any other modalities, chuck them into the links below. But definitely, like I feel like that's that's a pretty good team. So
maybe a voucher to the soak bath house where they have those magnesium pools that you can just kind of lay in for an hour.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be really good. Yeah.
City cave, go and just float. Yeah, exactly. Cool.
Yeah, that's I can't think of any more like ones that I've referred to or mentioned to clients specifically, but they're all the top recommendations that we've got in our heads.
Yeah, cool. Anything else you wanted to cover in the endo space, or?
Possibly I know also in the podcast, I think Jess on that website page, wherever it is on the website, she may have linked the document where I had like a bunch of notes around kind of the progression and how endo happens, which are useful to get your head around that process.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we just lost Mickayla. But anyway, I will hyperlink the podcast that Jess and Mickayla did when I flick this up into my stories. But for anyone who wants to go and listen to it, it's episode 107 on the JCN Clinic podcast show. So if you guys do have any questions, please just feel free to DM Mickayla and I or pop them below. Hopefully you have found this useful in understanding the holistic management of endometriosis, but also how we can definitely integrate and work alongside mainstream management of endometriosis. It is a chronic condition for females that is something that is not diagnosed probably quickly enough, but hopefully that space will start to change. So any questions, let us know. Thanks for tuning in. Happy International Women's Day, and we will catch you guys next time.